Yo, 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 it's me, Sunny Dee.
And I'm Captain J.
And we're the Pot Smoking Moms. Hey, this is episode 2 of our special interview series.
Ooh.
Yes. So we're trying this new thing out where we package our show separately. We'll have our show, just like always, and then we bring you the interview the next week. One of you has expressed your dissatisfaction with this.
We did ask a poll and only one reply.
Yeah, and only one reply. We respect the reply.
And we do. But we're going to give it a shot.
We're going to give it a shot
because we want to give you weekly content again. And we're not able to do a full show every week, but we can do this interview separately. So at least in the off week, you get the interview.
Right. And we give the interview its platform as it so deserves it, but we do respect your opinion. So please keep your feedback coming. If you rather we squish it all into one package for you.
Yeah, because sometimes it's almost an hour and a half show when we do that.
Right. And we don't know how long you guys stick around. What's your favorite part? We also thought, like, if you guys really like the interviews, you don't have to, like, put up with our bullshit unless you like our bullshit. You know what I mean? It's really whatever's up to you. This way we get 2 shots to tickle your fancy. And, hey, let us know if you rather us go back to the full format of, like, sometimes we have a show with no interview, and then when we do have an interview, it's part of the show. So you let us know. We love your feedback. We appreciate the one feedback. I was about to change your whole show just for that one person. I was ready to just go back to the normal thing, and but we're gonna give it a shot and try do it. This week we have a very special interview. I mean, every interview is special in its own right.
This is a homie for real.
But this is a homie for real. This is someone we met back when we first started
the podcast.
Like right before we first got on the podcast, we went to a little thing.
It was
in
our
Tampa.
First event, like cannabis event as the Pot Smoking
That's
Moms.
how we got our feet wet. We went to an event.
Yeah, like we were still not showing our faces. We were only audio. We were not posting any pictures on our social media. So we just went to this event, not knowing what we were going to get into. And that's when we met Pothead Mom.
We met a bunch of people,
the Green MP.
Yeah.
And we met Angie.
The Green Baker, Angie.
Yeah.
So, forging wonderful cannabis friendships. Marena de Jesus is really she's just like a homie. We had her on the podcast before. Episode number 90, Cannabis Crops with the Green MP. We had her back then on the show. It's one of our popular episodes.
She's not only a nurse practitioner, but also the CEO of FlowGrown Genetics. So FlowGrown as in, grown by some people, FlowGrown.
Like Florida.
From Florida. Even though they're in Oklahoma, they're, from their roots are Miami. So
Oklahoma needs a little taste of Miami. Everywhere we go,
look at that. We have
Miami.
FlowGrown over in Oklahoma. We have Magic City Cannabis over in Colorado.
Yeah, so it's
seeping out to
Miami
all the other states.
All over the states. Yeah. So this was real special because she approached us. There was a popular documentary that came out on Netflix called The Program: Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping, which we discussed in the previous episode. Where we talk about a little bit about the documentary. She kind of approached us and was like, hey, I don't know if you guys know this documentary, but it's out on Netflix. And I actually attended one of the boarding schools that was featured in the documentary.
Yeah, they mentioned her school in it because they had shut down the school she attended, and the students that were in that school when it got shut down got brought to the other school that is mainly featured in the docuseries.
Right.
But all these schools really were the same, and she's going to go over all that in the interview.
Yeah,
where they have basically the same program. It's the program, but they're all under that WASP network of schools, and these things are still happening today. These schools still exist. Kids are still being sent to these schools.
Yeah, so it's crazy. We talk a lot about it, and I get a little teary eyed just thinking about like how vulnerable the parents are.
I'm crying a little bit.
Yeah, because I was just like,
it's very look. Trigger warning. It is some traumatic stuff these kids went through in these schools, and it's really surprising to me that we actually know someone that had this lived experience, like that actually attended one of these schools.
Right, it has that.
Like I saw that documentary, and then when she said she attended the Casa By the Sea, I was like, no freaking way.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy, but we we're so glad she gave us time to sit and talk about it. And if you want to know all about it, here it is. Here's the interview with Marena de Jesus. We hope you enjoy.
We're really excited to have you back on the show. It's been eons ago. That's why I was like, I think we need to have her back on the show and talk about a couple of new things you've got going on. You got to talk to us about the chocolate. Talk about
Okay,
the
this
shroom
girl's
chocolate.
like, oh, I tried the chocolate she sent us. It was really strong. It was good. And I was like, oh, I ate 4 pieces. I was like, 4 pieces, girl, that's a gram. Of course it was strong.
Yeah, but that was okay. All right. Yes, but also that's the lower end of the high end. And it was like, it was
Of the
great. Like,
therapeutic dose.
Wow,
yes.
you guys need to try the gummies now. They're ridiculous. So I actually did an experiment on myself last night, and holy crap. For a moment there, I was like, okay, they taste freaking amazing. It's almost dangerous because you take a bite and you're like, oh shit. So you forget that they have anything in them. And then
You want another one?
yeah, before you know it, like you're like 4 in and you're like, ah, shit, I just took almost 2 grams. Like, what am I doing?
That's like, okay, well, no, 4 grams would be like an ego killing dose. Would be
Oh,
like
yeah,
4 grams.
no. I'm like in a corner, the heavy weighted blanket, just like in the zone on 4 grams. Like the people who do 4 grams and more, like kudos to you. I'm going through therapy on 4 grams.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real.
Now that's like
That would be a whole bar, right? That'd be a whole chocolate bar, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. No way.
That's expert level.
Expert level. I feel like when
times-
you do that high, you need somebody there as like a guide or somebody to be there that's not at 4 grams of shrooms.
Well, and I know like some people do doses like that, but those are the people that like are like daily dosing. They get to a point where their what you may call it, their tolerance is ridiculous. Like I talk to some people and they're like, oh, I just took a quarter. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is wrong with you? A quarter? Like, damn.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But then they reset and they're fine or whatever. So, I mean,
Do you remember the first time you tried shrooms? Like, how old were you?
the first time I tried shrooms, I think I was 13.
Wow.
I tried everything pretty early on. And like I knew immediately. I thank God that because I know it could have easily gone a different way. You know what I'm saying? Especially with trying some other substances like shrooms and cannabis. Yeah, whatever. That's not gonna harm you or whatever. But when you're trying like pills and shit like that, thank God that I never had that addictive personality where I was like, you know what I mean? Like I tried a couple pills. I was like, I don't like it. It's not for me. And thank God, because now in hindsight, knowing what I know about pharmaceuticals, I'm like, Jesus, thank you for protecting me and not letting me get hooked on that shit.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people on our.
Do you mean like Oxy or Xanax or
like all
above,
that.
like all those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are dangerous. Those are really dangerous.
But yeah, I tried everything pretty early on. So shrooms, yeah, I was 13. Like I remember, it's gonna sound crazy, but like when I was 15 in high school, my freshman year, I used to do acid in school.
My husband used to do that.
Yeah, and I remember like sometimes, some days it'd be all right. Like I wouldn't really notice, but then some days, holy shit. Like I remember being in Spanish class and thinking she was speaking German and like legitimately not knowing what she was saying. And I'm fluent in Spanish. So I'm like, what the hell?
Was it and not only fluent in Spanish, I'm like, was Spanish also your first language?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like I remember, she's sitting there talking and I'm seeing like a trail of her go back and forth, thinking to myself, like, why am I in German class? Like so I had those moments, but
So, so it seems like you were a very rebellious teenager.
I mean, yes and no. It's weird. Like from birth to probably 12 years old, and my mom still to this day, she'll attest to it. Uh, she said that I was an angel. That like I literally was very quiet. I would just sit and observe everyone. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so I would just sit and watch all the older kids, and I was an angel. And then somewhere around 12, that's where I started rebelling. So from like 12 to 15, and I wasn't even like, I mean, yeah, I was doing shit I wasn't supposed to be doing, but I wouldn't say like I wasn't out there like robbing people or like,
Gang banging and shit,
yeah,
like
I
going
wasn't
out
doing
there
malicious
and
things. I was just experimental. So like I was,
That's what I feel like I
trying
was.
shrooms, smoking weed, going to parties, just like typical teenage shit, basically. And so then at that point, my parents were also going through a divorce when I was 12. So then, that's how things started kind of, my world started
unraveling.
shifting because I had like zero supervision. I had my older siblings were like my parents, you know what I'm saying? So then it just like made things worse because I was just doing whatever the fuck I want.
Doing as you please.
Yes, exactly. So
So we're gonna talk about your experience. Like, what was the thing, the catalyst that had your parents send you to one of these troubled teens? Because we found out recently, I had no idea that I don't know if you mentioned it before. I couldn't recall.
No,
I don't think
the
so.
documentary came out and then she mentioned it to us in the chat because we were like, "Oh,
Yes.
it's time we have you back on the show." And she's
Mhm.
like, and then you let us know. So what? Yeah, what at what age did that end up happening?
So basically, so then when my parents got divorced, my mom was kind of like in her own little world, just like going through it. She was depressed. I get it. You know what I mean? She was married to my dad, had 6 kids for over 25 years. And then my dad at that point, he moved to Miami. So he was like, he was still very involved with us, but at a distance. And so then I got to the point where I was just getting in so much trouble. Like I just literally was never going to school. And then there was a situation when this is so stupid, but I was at Daytona for spring break. Y'all know, come on, old school
Yeah,
Daytona.
Daytona. I mean, back in that time.
At that time, bro, and like this is
Yeah.
like when
MTV
everyone.
Spring Break.
Yes,
Woo!
exactly. So you would go out there and you'd stay for like a week and like no parents around and all that shit. So basically there was a situation where I got in trouble with cops, and long story short, I ended up giving them false information, and then they found out. Then I had to go back to court, and then I had like community service and like all these drug tests, and of course I failed every drug test. So I was just making the situation worse at that point. And so then my mom was like literally worried. She was like, I don't know what to do. She was worried that I'd end up in like either juvie or dead or whatever. So she started looking into programs, and when they found it, remember back then we had internet, but it was like shitty, you know what I mean?
Yeah, AOL.
Yeah, we didn't have
Right.
like social media, things weren't easily exposed back then. So you got to keep in
Dial-up.
mind that this
What
company,
year was this? Like late 90s or early 2000s?
2000,
Late 90s, right?
2000.
2000?
Yeah, I mean, I started getting into trouble in the late 90s, but I went to boarding school in 2001.
2001.
I remember because I went in the day before September 11th.
Ooh.
So for me, I have no concept of September 11th. Like the way that people, like I'll talk to people here and they'll be like, oh, I still remember where I was. And like they can tell
Right.
you in vivid detail. I'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I have no concept of that because I didn't even find out about September 11th till like several days after it happened,
Oh,
because
wow.
I was
Wow.
already in boarding school. And the way that this school worked, this program, they literally kept you locked in like a prisoner and you had zero rights. Or I mean, there's so much to it. It was such a mind fuck. I can't even begin to explain, you know? So basically my mom had found this school and they had a lot of money. The year I went, that parent company, the organization that owned all of them, because WASP, exactly. They owned over 30 schools. So it just in 2001, they made, I think, like over 90 million in tuition alone. And that's in 2001. So like, yeah, basically these people have been scamming parents and families for God knows how long and getting away with it, and they're still getting away with it. So basically all that happened. My mom, luckily I wasn't one of the kids that got like kidnapped or whatever. Like, I don't know if you guys watched the actual documentary.
Yeah. So just because we didn't set it up really when we set up this question properly, just for the listeners. No, we the way we asked the question was totally convoluted, but this is basically a troubled children's, like a network of troubled teen schools that this organization WASP has like opened them all over the country, all over the US, and I'm sorry, world, because there's all different places. And like you said, they would send kids there supposedly with this intention that everything's going to be, they're going to fix their kid and send them back fixed, and they end up being you know, basically trauma because of the way they're treated, because it's like prison for children.
Is this like
but the kidnap thing, like you were saying,
the Paris Hilton, like how Paris Hilton?
Yes,
I mean,
Paris
I saw her
Hilton
documentary.
speaks out.
She went to one of those
She went
schools.
to another one.
Yeah.
Well, continue what you were saying. So your parents at least didn't do the kidnap part. Like,
yeah,
you
no.
knew you were going there.
No, my parents didn't do it like that. The way my parents did it was my dad ended up taking me, and he didn't tell me that I was going to the school until literally like when I got there. You know what I mean?
So he was dropping you off.
It's kind of hard to see that this is where it gets tricky, because when I got out initially, I didn't really talk about it for two reasons. When I did talk about it, people had a really hard time either believing or even understanding what the hell I was trying to explain, because you hear this and you're like, what? How? Like, how is that even possible? Okay. So basically for me, my dad was like, hey, let's go on a trip. Let's go to San Diego, and then we'll go down into Ensenada, Baja California, whatever. And at the time I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. That was like at the peak of like my shit show. And I'll be honest, like, I'll own it, dude. Like, when we went on that trip, I was so fucked up that I literally, like, the whole plane ride and everything, I don't even remember any of that. I don't really remember much until we were literally at Casa by the Sea, which is in Ensenada, Baja California, which is Mexico. And when we were at the gates, and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, you know, we just got to go in, whatever. And then he like drives in, and the gates shut behind you. And mind you, these aren't like normal gates. We're talking about like prison style gates, like the whole a giant compound with like cement walls that were like ridiculously high. There's no way you can get out of that. You know what I'm saying? So, so then that's when I realized, like, oh shit, I don't know what this is, but that's when 2 and 2 like clicked. So at least mine was a little less traumatizing. I mean, it still was a super shitty situation. Yeah. And then at that point, and here's the part, the kicker is, like, me and my mom's relationship now, we are super duper close. I tell her everything. Like, I hide nothing. She is my #1 fan, my biggest supporter. And I thank God every single day that we were able to get to the place that we are now, because honest to God, it was not like that when I first got out. In my head, I was like, fuck this, fuck everyone. I'm going to work really hard and just be really independent. And I literally moved out of my mom's house, and I basically have been like working and like been a hustler since then, you know? And like, yeah, my mom definitely has helped me throughout it with like college and stuff like that. But I just always had that mentality, like, just do everything on your own and like fuck everything. You know what I mean? Because of that. And so we didn't have a relationship for like the first, honestly, not until I was like almost 33, to be honest with you. I'm 38 now. And yeah, not until I was like 33 that we started to like actually have a real relationship. And then it's been mainly in the last like 4 years that we've gotten to this stage. And honestly, the only reason why we've even gotten to this stage is because I'm just so raw and like real with myself, you know? And like that's the thing about things like psychedelic therapy, you know, that people are like, oh, you do that just for fun or whatever. Like, yeah, of course it's fun. Who wouldn't do it for fun? But like truly in the last 3 years, I would say I've been able to truly break through such deep barriers and go through, be able to work through my own trauma in a way that I like, I'm just so raw and real with myself. And by being that way, it's allowed me to be raw and real with the people in my life. And my relationships have blossomed because of that. You know what I mean? And I honestly, I think it's mainly because of psychedelics. I swear to God, it's crazy. But anyways.
I definitely can. I resonate with that because I feel like I always feel so much lighter after doing psychedelics. First, like I have several days after that, yeah, that effect where I just feel so much lighter. Like it's hard to explain, but like, I don't know. I know exactly what you mean. But to go back to what was it, Casita by the La
Casa
Casita
by the Sea. That's what it was
yeah,
called.
they mentioned that school in we forgot to mention, this is actually a series on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, it's called The Program on Netflix. And they mentioned that school. It got busted by the federales. They closed it down because it was in Mexico. And one of the students, when it got shut down, ended up in the school that the documentary, the program is actually about. So that's when they mentioned that school. Like, how old were you when they sent you there, and like how long were you there?
So I went in, I was 15, and I was actually the kid who broke the record for going through the program the fastest. And I wholeheartedly believe it was for multiple reasons. So I went through the program in 11 months, which I know doesn't sound fast, but the way it's set up, trust me, that's fast, because they basically set you up for failure the whole way through, because their whole goal is to just try to keep you there and keep milking your parents. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I was there for 11 months, and then this is the God, there's such shitbag scam artists. But okay, so then right before I was gonna finish the program, I came home on a home visit, and I had gone to like all this private schools around my mom's house because we were trying to figure out like what school I'd be coming back to. My mom didn't want me to come back to the public school that I had, left or whatever. And so then I went to all these private schools around the area, and they all were like, oh, you're only like 3 classes away from actually graduating, but because you're only 16, we want to keep you and put you as like a junior or something like that. Like they wanted me to stay an extra 2 years just because of my age, I guess. And so I was like, nah, I didn't want that. My mom, she kind of understood that I didn't want that either. So we ended up negotiating a deal with the program that I came back and stayed an extra 2 months just to finish my diploma that I now have come to realize is fake, because there are no real diplomas.
Yes, I was about to say that, but wait a minute. Those were not accredited schools. They were not legitimate high school diplomas. All these kids, this is the thing. They scam these parents to send these kids to these schools to be reformed, right? and they graduate and get their diploma from there, and it's not a real diploma that is
So, but
accepted.
what are they? So are they? So then, what are you doing there? What are they teaching
It's a
you? Is it
scam.
just
Okay,
scam, dude?
I have to ask. Okay, were your parents really religious? Because it seemed in the documentary they targeted a lot of Christian communities, and a lot of churches referred kids.
Yeah, well, no, my parents honestly weren't. So this is because I always ask my mom. The irony is, okay,
Did they do the program class like seminars? I have to know.
We'll get into that. So basically, when my mom found this school, so I was raised Catholic, but when we moved to Florida from Puerto Rico, I mean, we didn't really follow it like that. You know what I mean? We still went to church, but it wasn't like we were super religious or anything like that. So, and especially at that time, like I said, my parents were going through a divorce. So I really don't think it had anything to do with religious, encouragement or anything like that. But she, honest to God, said, even till this day, she's like, I didn't even know. She's like, I had no clue that it was anything like that. I made her watch that Netflix documentary, and she's like, I really just don't understand it. She's like, why didn't you ever just tell me? She's like, every time you came for a home visit, why wouldn't you just tell me the truth? And I tell her exactly what Catherine on the documentary tells her dad, which is, we couldn't tell you. You can't take that risk. You can't, God forbid, you worked so hard to get to that certain level to even have a home visit. You're not going to jeopardize or sabotage yourself like that. So you just suck it up and you just know, like, dude, you're almost out. Just shut up, take it, keep going. You know what I mean? And so, like, being there I truly believe, has sculpted me to be who I am. Like, I, by nature, always want to help as many people as possible. I think that's heavily influenced by that. I, by nature, am such a fighter. I go against the grain. I'm always like, I don't take things just for like face value. I have to do my own research and and if that means sacrificing myself and putting myself at risk to try to do what's right or fight for someone else, I do it. And I think that comes from being there, because being there was so traumatic. It was such a shit show. Like, I luckily was not sexually assaulted, but most of the girls were. A lot of the girls, at bare minimum, we were all emotionally abused, obviously, and manipulated. But then there's also all those other layers of physical and sexual abuse that happen, So.
Was it similar to the other school that was depicted in the program, where you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to look at each other? The boys were separated from the girls. Like, you had somebody watching you at all times when you use the bathroom, all that.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll be honest with you, I was watching it and I was like, damn, their facility was nice. Like, my facility, we didn't have big dorms like that. Like, we had double wide trailers that they would stuff 2 full families in there. So you're talking about almost 40 something girls in a double wide trailer that's just lined up with bunk beds. You know what I'm saying? So it was literally just like a double wide trailer, and there's a wall in the middle, but then one side is one family, the other side is another family, and it's just rows of bunk beds. And so there's like 20 something in each family. You get what I'm saying? And so then there's just one little tiny walkway. There's no AC or heater, and like, we had extreme weathers, because our days would be 100 and something degrees, and our nights would drop down into like the 30s and the 40s, because it's like that desert, coastal cool nights. We didn't have computers like they did.
So your lessons weren't on the computers, because for them it was just like a computer software. They had to do all that.
No, mine was.
So what were your lessons like?
So I would get a syllabus and a textbook, and it would say like, take a quiz at the end of each chapter. and then you would just have to turn in the quizzes and you'd have to get an 80 or higher. But the thing is, like, it's an open book test. So as long as you just literally would sit there and just do it. So that's why I was like, well, shit, I only have 3 classes. I'm just going to go back. Let me finish that, you know? So my parents paid up the ass for another couple months. I didn't have to follow the program rules, but they were still paying a lot of money for a fake diploma that I never.
The audacity that this school knew that you were coming back specifically just to finish your diploma, and they know that they're not accredited. That's just insane to me.
Completely fake. And it makes sense because when I came back and I was like, okay, I'm going to enroll in college. So I started at community college. I started at Valencia. And I remember like enrolling and them being like, oh, well, you know, you came technically from Ensenada, so we're going to treat you kind of like a foreign student. And they're like, you have to take all these exams. And I remember thinking like, damn, why am I having to test into all this stuff? And luckily my scores were high enough, you know what I mean? And so then I just started there and I worked my way through college, you know what I'm saying? But what's crazy is I have a master's degree and I technically have no high school diploma.
Wow.
If you think about it.
Because you tested into basically going to
college.
college.
I mean, it was bullshit. Like I literally would just take open book exams, turn it in. If I didn't get an 80, they would give it back to me and I would just fix it until I got an 80 or higher. Like, you know?
Wow.
And I just thought to myself, like, all right, I'm already in hell. So I could either beat it or join it. You know what I mean? If I make it more difficult on myself, I'm going to be stuck here and God knows how long and God knows what they'll do to me, because I saw quickly the girls that fought the most were the ones that were abused the most. You know what I'm saying? And so, and there were some girls that didn't fight at all. They were just, I guess, the unlucky ones that the people had a thing for or whatever. But I just thought to myself, just play the game, do what you have to do. And so I would literally just do schoolwork all day and that's it. But yeah, no, it was very similar to that facility. Our facility was definitely worse. I mean, we had shitty, dirty Mexican water with like barely any pressure. Good luck washing your hair. Like it was bad. So, but anyways, but rule wise, it was exactly the same. So the whole premise of the program is it's a 6-level program and you have to complete a series of seminars as well as like get so many points per level, if that makes sense. But what they don't explain to you very well in that documentary is that, so the seminars come like every 4 to 6 weeks. And at any point, if they want to, they can pull you out of any seminar. So like, it really was the luck of the draw. There would be girls that would literally be doing everything correctly and they'd be stuck on level 2 forever because they were just assholes and they would just keep them. You know what I mean? Like keep pulling them out. And like, it sucks because you're going through these seminars. These seminars are like 3 days long and you really have no like track of time or whatever. And it's like emotionally draining and like, it's ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous experience. But so you're sitting in this like dungeon basically, and you're being brainwashed or they're attempting to brainwash you. And in your head, you're just thinking, I just want to get out of here. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of here. So you're sitting there playing their stupid game, you know, saying whatever you need to say to get out. And at any point, like, they'll just come up to you and be like, you're not ready. You're not taking accountability. And they pull you out. And then bam, you're stuck. You're stuck on that level for another, 4 to 6 weeks. So you're at their mercy at all times.
They could just make your stay that much longer.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
When you watched the docuseries and you saw they had a lot of footage of these things.
Yeah.
And they actually showed some clips from these actual seminars. How did it feel watching that again? Like, did you remember completing some of the similar seminars you saw them doing?
Everything. It was crazy. I was watching it and I'm like, holy shit. Well, first of all, when I saw David Gilcrease, I almost lost it because that was my guy. David Gilcrease I remember him, and then some lady named Joyce something. I don't remember her name, but I can picture what she looks like. I don't know her name, but David Gilcrease, he was like the ringleader of all these seminars. So he went around and did them at all the schools apparently. Yeah, just watching it just took me right back to those days, and just, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that I ever even lived that. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild. I wholeheartedly believe that what saved me, there was a couple factors that saved me. So it's funny because after watching this documentary, my mom said, holy shit, I almost sent you to Ivy Ridge, which is the New York one.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I was this close to sending you to the New York one because I wanted you to be closer. And I guess that was one of the closer ones or whatever to Florida. And she's like, but then I saw Casa by the Sea and I thought maybe it'd be good to get you back to your Spanish roots. Because, you know, Latin moms, bro, they always blame everything on like the craziest shit. Like, you know what I mean? So she's like, so she put me in the Mexico one thinking that, well, maybe it'll bring me back to my Spanish roots. Now in hindsight, I'll be honest, that is partially what saved me, because we had like close to 350 girls or something like that. And most of them couldn't speak Spanish. And most of the staff, actually all of the staff except for administration, was all Mexican because it was locals that were hired, you know? And so what happens is you are confined in this program that's set up for failure, and literally everything gets you punished and keeps you in these lower levels, right? So like turning your head without permission, not pivoting your corners sharp enough, you know, speaking without permission, gazing into the air. You literally couldn't
looking out the window.
Yeah, literally anything. It was extreme military rules, you know? And so, what was I going to say? Oh, so then naturally you don't do it on purpose, but like you may turn your head or whatever. And so the staff starts yelling at you, but they're yelling at you in Spanish. So most of the girls, they couldn't defend themselves. They didn't even understand what the staff was saying. So then they'd be like, but what? I didn't do anything. Da, 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 da. And so then you get what I'm saying? That back and forth would happen. Whereas with me, they would speak to me in Spanish and I would just speak back to them in Spanish. And I'd say like, oh no, I heard something. That's why I turned my head. I could defend myself. And so because of that saved me. The fact that I was brunette with brown eyes saved me, because most of the girls that were sexually assaulted happen to be blonde hair, blue eye. So I guess it was like a type or something. And it's horrible.
They're going after the gringas.
Yeah. So things like that saved me. Also the administration at the time, because it was like run by this Mormon family, you know, they were all related. Like even in the family that's in that documentary, they're all related somehow. It's like a cousin, an uncle, you know what I'm saying?
So they keep it in the family so that people stay loyal and don't speak about what's happening.
And I mean, they have a lot to lose because they're making ridiculous amounts of money, you know? So that administrator for my location happened to be a big University of Florida fan. And my brothers all went to UF at the time, and they were like really good friends with the football players and like the main football players. So my brother would send signed like footballs and like windbreaker outfits or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, that actually helped me.
Of course it did.
It sounds fucked up, but it actually
It
really
is fucked up.
So, but I used it all to my advantage, and so because
thank
of
God
that,
you had those advantages.
yeah, for real. But even now, my mom, like I said, she's like, I swear to God, I had no clue. And also, like, my mom's like, do you know that I sent you packages every single week? Every single week. She's and massive packages. Like, if you know anything about my mom's ridiculous and she loves to like buy people gifts and stuff like that. So she would send me these big ass packages, and I didn't get any one of them.
Wow. Okay. They probably just gave it to the staff.
100%, or they
the
kept
staff
it.
Was like, oh, they got another package. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so evil.
Yeah.
So did they let you write home, like, and they would monitor all
supposedly, yeah, you would supposed to be writing back and forth, but they read everything and then they would black out anything they didn't want the parents to see or whatever. And then if it's too much blacking out, they just wouldn't even give it to the parents. So like me and my mom, because I talk about it, and she's like, oh, I wrote you every single week. She's like, I would write you ridiculous letters every single week. And I was like, I didn't get a letter from my mom for like the first 5 months I was there.
Of course.
But that's because
I want you to think that they just left you.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a mind fuck. They know what they're doing, I'm telling you. And it's really hard to explain because even me hearing it out loud, if I didn't live through it, I honest to God would think to myself, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what idiot parent would even send their kid? How could you not know?
Well,
like,
but that was like a while ago, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, let's all remember the
but
time
it's still a
that
problem.
Now it's still a problem, and it blows my mind that these programs are still going on.
That's what's crazy is that, look, this was 23 years ago for you. You said 2001, right?
Yeah.
Schools keep getting shut down as things are exposed, and they just open new ones in different places under different names. They just keep redoing it.
And I guess
now it's evolved to the point where they get the government to send foster children to these programs. Just because they're in the foster system and they don't have anywhere to put them. There's no foster homes.
Right.
We'll send them to these places. So now they're getting paid by the government as well. It's insane what it's evolved to.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's still happening. But like, that's why it's good these conversations are happening.
Yeah.
Hilton's out there talking about it, that this documentary was done, because to think that you were in Mexico and they're all over the world, but there's a lot that operate within the United States.
Yeah.
Which one? I think Paris Hilton went to one in California, right? I don't know where hers was.
I want to say Utah, because the bulk of them now are in Utah. I guess Utah has certain laws that they get away with still, and they're like heavily backed by the government, because all these programs, they took a lot of their profits and dumped it into politicians. And so now they have all these politicians by the balls, and so they're protected by, certain government people. I don't want to like get into the whole politics of it, but that's truly what's happening.
Pay people off to be able to keep doing their shady shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. And it's sad because you guys are moms. So you know the importance of the influence you have on children. You know what I mean? That is our future. You are making or breaking a child. So think of the thousands of kids that they're destroying and creating monsters out of. It's sad because like I'm honestly a rarity. Most of the people that I went to the program with are either dead, severe drug addicts, or just have severe PTSD. A lot of them do, honestly.
Have you kept in touch with any of them?
Yeah, I mean, at one point I even had one of them come stay with me, and like it was so bad that like I was like, you're not well. Like they had to leave because they're just you know, and it's not necessarily them. It's not who they are. They're just, they can't let go of that trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a lot of trauma to let go of.
But some of these girls, you have to understand, really went through it hard. Like the trauma I went through there was more so going through it, yeah, but seeing what I saw, you know, it was hard because at a certain point you become an upper level, and so they make you the staff, you know, and at that point you've had to go through hell to get to that point, so you don't want to risk yourself either, so you kind of have to like play this fine line of like, when staff is around, you have to be like the bully almost. But then when they're not around, then you can just kind of be yourself and get to know each other one-on-one. And that's what I ended up doing. But so like the lower levels, when I was an upper level, they knew like, hey, she's cool. She's really not here to harm you or whatever. But it sucks because there's a lot of shit I had to see and I couldn't say or do anything about it. You know, I had to be a witness to physical abuse, and that's fucked up. You know, imagine you're 15 years old, you're in Mexico, you just don't even want to be there, you think that no one fucking loves you, and on top of that you have to be a witness to other people being abused. So it was a mind fuck, that's for sure.
I can't even imagine going through that.
Yeah,
like most of the kids end up dead or trauma. Like they said that the number of suicides of kids that have come out of this program is extremely high.
Yeah.
And what did they do with the David Gilchrist guy? Is that guy?
He's still going around and doing
seminars. They're all still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think only one of them ended up doing some time at one point. One of the brothers or something.
Oh yeah,
they talk about it in the documentary
for sexual assault or whatever, right?
Yeah. You gotta watch. I know you don't have Netflix anymore, Dee. Yeah,
but I got it now, so I got it back.
You got it back? You gotta watch it. You gotta watch
it. Now I'm gonna watch it for sure. I did watch Paris Hilton's. I'm not a big fan of her, but I was interested in her story, and
yeah,
it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, Paris had to have gotten it bad, I'm sure.
And these parents have the best intentions. They think they're sending their kids. That's the worst part. When you see all the brochures and all the marketing materials and all the information about the school, it looks like you guys have activities, that you do stuff, that it's engaging, that it's fun. They show pictures of them like smiling and doing outdoor activities and shit. That's not happening. You don't go, no.
Because the way they stage that is, so when you get to a certain level, when you're upper level, like you're level 5, level 6, you're basically about to go home.
That sounds like Scientology, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you're at that point, you're about like a month, maybe month and a half from going home. And what they do is they're very smart. They take those kids like once a year and they'll take them somewhere. They're like, hey, you guys get an outing. You know what I'm saying? So then they take us out and they're like, oh, no, you can wear normal clothes, like all that shit. So we think we're being treated and they're taking pictures of us and stuff. And that's the marketing material that they use. But in reality, that's like, it's all staged, you know? It's like a one-time outing in like that whole year that you're there.
And they use it like bait. They bait you into it, like the way they frame it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, look, you know, your kid, they get to have real friends and they go out and this and that. And we're like, no. I remember one time we had an outing. This is a true story. Okay, so one time, I was like a level 5 or something. I basically had like a month left to go home, and the administrator decided to let me and like 3 other girls, we were all level 5, 6, we were all almost about to go home. he was like, oh, I'm going to take you girls to a baseball game. So he took us to San Diego, and we watched the San Diego Padres versus Arizona Diamondbacks baseball game. And I remember because at one point we were like walking all around the stadium. We weren't even watching the game. We don't give a fuck about baseball. And honestly, we're just happy that we're not like in a prison, like confined to walls. So
yeah, look at things.
Yeah, exactly. So we're like just people watching whatever. And at one point, one of the girls was like, should we just leave and never come back? And I was like, what? And she's like, let's just leave and never come back. And I was like, dude, we have like a month left. Like, don't even joke like that, because if anyone finds out, you're gonna get dropped to level 1 and you're gonna have to start all over. And so she was like, oh yeah, I'm just kidding, whatever. And so then like we got back and everything was fine or whatever. But like looking back now, I always think, I wonder if I said, yeah, let's do it, if she was like dead ass or what. Like
I think she was.
I almost feel like she was dead ass and like was testing me just to see like if I would.
There's an alternate universe where you said, let's get the fuck out, and went.
Yeah. God, that would have been crazy. I don't even know.
That would have been crazy. But right, you're like a month left. And this is actually like Dee, like I was saying, this isn't old news. This is current. There was just recently a school in Jamaica that got shut down, and because a boy died there, and Paris Hilton went to go speak about that this whole scenario and about this schools and like continuing to educate. So like it's still a like continuing problem.
Yeah. The Jamaica location, because WASP, they had one in Jamaica, and that one was horrible. I heard that, and actually you can Google it if you find it online. I guess a student jumped off the building and committed suicide. And so he fell from, I guess it's like a 4-story cement building. He jumped off the very top floor and he splattered on the cement, and they made their students clean it up.
Oh my God.
So imagine you being there, you're a student, and you see your freaking old pal, or maybe not even someone you really know, but you see him every day.
Terrible.
And bam, they splatter in front of you. And then you have to clean it up.
That's awful.
Wow. I have no words.
So the Jamaica one was one of the worst ones. The one in Costa Rica was one of the worst ones. There's one in like Pacific Samoa or something like that. That one was really bad. Those kids, they had to wash their own clothes by hand daily. Like they didn't have actual normal showers there. And then in that one, at one point, it got so bad that I think a kid tried to kill another kid by like drowning him.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror stories out of these schools.
Yeah.
What I also found really interesting that they touch on in the documentary is the cult side of it, of how they kind of like try to brainwash not only the kids at these programs, but the parents by having the parents attending seminars and being like thinking this is all the, I guess. Do you know if your mom attended any of the seminars?
My whole family. My whole family did Discovery, which is the first one. And then my mom did the entire series, because that's also part of it. They would tell your parents, oh, your kid can't graduate the program unless you do the seminars too. So like there were some kids that were stuck because their parents wouldn't do their end of it. So then like this poor kid who's doing everything right is freaking stuck in a program just because their parents won't go to a damn seminar. Like how fucked up is that?
God, that is so many layers of fucked up.
It is.
There's so many fucked up situations there. It's not even funny.
That is so wild.
Like, I'll tell you about this one girl. I'm not going to use any names, but there was a girl that I went to the program with. She had never drank, done drugs. Straight A student, great kid, you know.
Why was she there?
She was there because her stepdad was sexually molesting her. And then when she turned a certain age, I want to say like when she turned 13, her stepdad decided that she's too old and started sexually molesting her little sister. And so because of that, she stepped up and started saying something. And instead of the mom being a mom and protecting her child, the mom ended up putting her in the program, like saying that she was like a liar and a manipulator and all this shit, even though she was a straight A student who had literally never done anything bad.
That's insane.
Yeah. There's so many fucked up situations like that. It's not even funny.
How did she do while she was there? Was she able to get out?
Yeah, well, she was one of the ones that was stuck. She worked really hard, and then she was stuck on like level 4 or 5 for like ever because her parents wouldn't do the seminars and shit. You know, it was sad. I think she ended up actually graduating with me, but she was supposed to graduate like 6 months before me, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is intense. Well, I'm glad you survived it and that you're thriving thanks to cannabis and psychedelics.
Does that kind of explain why I'm so kooky now?
I think we're all a little kooky, but damn, that's quite a story. I can't even.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I know somebody that actually has this lived experience.
I know. I honestly, sometimes it's weird because sometimes it feels like it never happened.
Yeah, like that wasn't you.
But then sometimes it feels so real that I get re-triggered. Like, I'm not gonna lie. When that documentary came out, I found it on accident. I didn't even know, honestly. I had clicked onto Netflix. I was getting ready to pass out, and I saw it, and all I saw was like, you know, Academy at Ivy Ridge and WASP and all that stuff. And so I was like, holy shit. I was like, wait a minute. So I put it on, and I ended up not falling asleep and binge watched the entire thing.
Of course.
And at the time, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes that it was all being exposed. And then I didn't realize it until the day after it all hit me. And I realized, oh shit, I just reopened all these wounds that I didn't realize were even there still. And so like probably for like a week after I watched it, I was a little fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. But then I feel like the more I talked about it and the more that people reached out and were like, hey, I can't believe you went there, and like just all the positive encouragement I got, then I was like, okay, it's okay. Like, this is not who I am. This is a part of my journey, but it doesn't define me in any way, shape, or form, you know? So, so yeah, now I'm here and I'm much better mentally and emotionally. But yeah, I still have moments, of course. I'd be lying if I said, oh, life is perfect and I don't ever think about it. Of course, like I still very, very much go through it.
I'm sure, like, even though the documentary reopened, I'm sure a lot of wounds, did it also like provide like validation? Like, yes, that is what I went through.
Yes.
It's coming out. Nobody believed that that's how it was like. Because that's what the girl that was doing the documentary, she was just trying to convince her dad that this was what happened to her. And it just broke, and like anybody to believe them that this is what happened to them. Like, it just broke my heart.
Yeah, I think that was the most positive part about it, was the validation, honestly. You know, and now also the people that I did talk about it before, now they like completely understand it. Because I have friends that have always loved and supported me and have always been like, you know, I'm so sorry you went through it, but they didn't understand it until they saw that, and they're like, oh wow, like now I really fully understand, you know. So that was kind of nice, especially for my mom to see it.
Yeah.
That was the most validating part of it.
That must have been really difficult for her to realize that that's what you lived through.
Yeah. And she's
especially
apologized a million times. And I believe her. Like, you know, I can't sit there and hate on my mom because I have to put myself in her shoes too. And well, you guys are moms, so imagine if you get to a point with your own child that you feel like you may even lose them. Like you may lose them either to prison or by death, even worse. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm sure, like I'm not a mom, but I'm sure that supersedes anything, right? So you get that panicky feeling of, I'm going to do anything it takes. And she genuinely thought she was helping me. I mean, just like that dad on the documentary, that's literally what my mom was like too.
Let me ask you this. When you got home, when you finished the program, did you like tell them what happened, or how did you even approach the subject with them? Was that even something that happened?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So when I got home, I actually stayed with my dad for a week. And I told my dad right away. And my dad right away was like, just so we're clear, I was adamantly against it. I told your mom no from the jump, but they were already divorced and like it wasn't his say. And he didn't want to anger my mom in a way that he wouldn't be able to talk to her at all,
right?
Push her away. You know what I mean? He didn't want to make it work.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, I mean, I can't go against your mom. So I just supported her the best way I thought I could, which was be there, do the seminar,
and take you and see it for himself.
Exactly. So, and that's because my dad, when he was 15, believe it or not, he went to boarding school in New York. I don't know if it was like the same or not, because my dad was very cryptic. He's like the nicest, most understanding guy, but he is more of a listener than a talker, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like, stuff about him, but you don't know the details, and he's really good at keeping things like a vault, like even recently my mom said, I was married to your dad for over 25 years and I still feel like I never really knew him. You know what I mean? So he's that kind of person. But anyways, when he was 15, 16, he went to boarding school in New York. So he had told my mom, no, I'm very against it. Like, I don't think that's the way to go, blah, blah, blah. So I'm leaning towards dad probably knew. Pops kind of, you know what I'm saying? So when I got out, I went and stayed with my dad in Miami for a while. And I was telling him all about it. And he, right off rip, he's like, I knew it. I figured. I'm so sorry. Like, basically just apologizing and explaining, like, I understand if you hate me or you don't want to talk to me and stuff, but just so you know, like, I was adamantly against it. And that's why I at least wanted to take you, and you not being taken away in the middle of the night and just everything. And through that and us talking back and forth a lot, basically, so that was fine for a while. It was my mom that took a while to like
believe you.
Yeah, not believe me, but like to understand it. You know what I mean? Like, when I first got out, I didn't really want to talk to my mom. I didn't really want anything to do with my mom. So I was like, get the fuck out of here, So, I mean, I was cordial with her. I'd give her the respect that you should give a mother, but I didn't have a close relationship with her at all. So, so it wasn't until I started opening up to her, and then I would drop little things here and there. And in the beginning, she'd be like, what? Like, I don't know if it was more so like she didn't believe it or she just didn't understand it. But then as more proof kept coming out, like online, internet, people with blogs and people writing books and then documentaries coming out and things like that. That I started showing her that, and then that helped to kind of clarify things. And now at this point, she fully understands it because of the documentary, the Netflix one. So
yeah, you gotta see a D, because it's insane how much footage
Yeah, but you
they
know,
have. Because this
for
school,
sure.
the Ivy Ridge one, they just left everything there. So the students basically went back to the school and everything was just abandoned. They found security footage of the abuse. They found everybody's full on records. They found their work. They found all sorts of shit. And I'm like, bro, they shut down and they just left it all there. Like they weren't even scared that they would come back to them.
I just think of like how vulnerable was your mom to be put, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feels like you gotta like be in denial to a certain extent to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, right? Did she not? Because if it took so long to crack her open for her to be, she needed all this proof and stuff, like, man, they must have said, I mean, it's so awful. They took advantage of her. She must have been super vulnerable at the time.
Oh, yeah. She even says it herself. She's like, she feels stupid, and she even says it. She's like, I mean, she says, it's not that I never believed you. It's just that the way I went about it,
the severity,
it's hard to understand. Because remember, I'm like coming home on home visits and I'm happy-go-lucky, and I'm putting on this face like, this is the best place ever, Casa by the Sea is the best thing to ever happen to me. And that's all bullshit. I'm saying that because I'm just saying what I have to say to get home,
Right.
So then you going from that to I get home, and now suddenly I'm saying that place was hell, da-da-da-da-da. It's hard for you to...
Right. To wrap your mind around it, like,
yes.
oh, but you were like fine. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then she would have to acknowledge that she sent her child to hell.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's the toughest pill to swallow. And trust me, there's been moments where I just say what I say to my mom, and straight shooter. And I know that that's something that, yeah, I went through shit, but the guilt that she has to live with for the rest of her life for doing that, trust me, I'm highly aware of it.
I can't even imagine.
It in her. I've seen it in her. I've seen her with tears in her eyes that it's, you know what I'm saying? It gets to your soul, and seeing that is what let me know, like, I gotta forgive her. You know what I mean? Like, she's in hell because she has to live with that guilt forever. If that makes any sense.
It totally does. I can't even imagine the guilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily I turned out all right, decent.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting, like how it strengthened your relationship after the fact. Like, it was something that happened, but
it wasn't until you
were able to rebuild. Yeah, but better late than never. Like, at least 33 and not 43, not 53, not 63.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. And at least we were able to get to the point we are now before it was too late. Like my dad passed away, and luckily me and my dad were in great terms when my dad passed away, and he passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. So you're just not guaranteed anything in life. So I'm grateful that, it was a bumpy ride, and it was a shitty ride. At least we're here, and my relationship with my mom is, stronger than ever. And like I said, I have no doubts in her as a mother, as my best friend, and my biggest supporter. So that's all that matters.
That's awesome.
Don't cry, Dee. She's like, I got these glasses hiding it. They can't tell.
Oh my God. So, like, since you guys are parents,
Yeah.
What would you do if that was a situation that you were in? Like, well, now it's a little bit
Did they try
easier.
therapy?
Mm-mm. Well, they thought,
back
remember,
then,
they thought I was going to be getting premium therapy there.
No, but like, to me,
Mhm.
I could not send my child away, but that's me.
Yeah.
I would rather try therapy here where they're coming home every night. We go somewhere, they go for a few hours and have sessions and have therapy.
Yeah.
I think I would start there before I
Yeah.
ever sent my child away
sending them
anywhere.
away.
And if I did ever send my child away anywhere, which I just can't imagine doing because I'm a very paranoid parent. I was very unsupervised and able to do as free. So like because of that, I'm like, oh, that's probably not the best thing. So um I would have to visit. Your dad went there though, so I'm not sure what he got to see, like what they showed him for where you're gonna sleep, or like I would have to see where my child's gonna be sleeping,
Yeah.
where they're gonna be learning, what the facilities are like. You know what I mean? Like I would have had
Yeah.
to do extreme due diligence, but definitely before I sent my kid anywhere, it would be therapy at home. I would try multiple therapists before it went to that point. That's just I think how I would
Yeah.
handle it.
No, and I tend to agree with you. Like I said, if I had kids, that's exactly what I would do, especially going through what I went through. But I'm just always curious to hear from parents, like.
But I feel like now we have a lot more resources too. I feel like back then it was a different time. I'm not saying that people don't get people don't get taken advantage,
Yeah.
or obviously that still happens, and like you said, I guess these schools are still happening, but I feel like we have a lot more resources, we have a lot more ways of communicating with each other, and like, back then too, la gente le entraba mucha confianza, like
Mm-hmm.
le tenía mucha confianza. I don't know if it's me where I'm like, I don't trust my shadow, and that's
I don't
something
trust
that,
anybody either.
No, I feel
you
like
know,
it's just a different generation. Like back then, you could kind of trust more people.
right?
Now it's
Yeah,
like,
you could leave your doors
I feel like
open. You could,
everybody's out
uh,
for sure.
but also I did ask my mom at one point. I said, "Why did you send me away though? Like, why couldn't, like how you said, why wouldn't you just do something local, And she said, because I thought the biggest problem was the people around you, that your influence around you. She's like, I thought that maybe by taking you out of the area, somewhere where your friends couldn't get to you and influence you, that you would get better. And I thought I was sending you to like a premium, top of the line therapeutic school." So
yeah,
I don't
man.
know. I don't know. I don't know.
Oye, pero if they run a good game,
They
like people,
do.
la
They
gente se
convince these
cae,
parents.
but
yeah,
there's people who are really vulnerable situations, right?
Of
yeah.
Oh, what do
course.
I do?
But
I felt like I had nothing else, no other options.
it's so expensive though. Like
Yeah.
it's not cheap either.
Yeah. It was
But like you were
over like,
saying, Dee, for sure, nowadays, not only do we have more ways to connect, but I just feel like mental health in general is a much more talked about issue nowadays, and people are more open to everyone should be going to therapy. It's not just for extremely troubled kids. It's
yeah.
everyone could benefit from a little therapy because we all
Right,
have a
it's
little
more
bit of trauma.
accessible and it's more
It's definitely more accessible.
acceptable, because back in the day it was very taboo and
Yeah.
people didn't want to like admit. So,
Yeah, that's true, because I feel like back then to have a child therapist, that was like a really fucked up child, supposedly.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
so whereas like now it's super common, like it's
yeah.
encouraged, even if you're not really having problems. It's just like, hey, if you can afford it, I encourage it,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. I'm sure it's hard to talk about, but maybe a little therapeutic, hopefully,
It is. thank you for having me and for allowing me to talk about it and stuff and listening, you know, believing me. I think that's the part that matters the most to, I think, to most of us survivors, is just being heard and just understanding, you know, that this is something we went through. It's not who we are. And just thank you for taking the time to listen, you know.
All right. Well, that was Marena de Jesus. Look at this picture here. Can you believe how look how young and innocent
and young
sent to that?
Yeah, that horrible,
that hell on earth
living circumstances. Like, it's
Can
crazy.
you imagine not being able to look or talk to anybody without permission? You can't look out the window. You can't speak. You can't do anything.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
Yeah,
but
and then in the end, you go to it's a high school and you get your high school diploma, and it's not even a real accredited school. It's not even a real high school diploma. How crazy was that?
Yeah, it's a letdown. You have to put up a lot of stuff, be traumatized,
and those parents put up a lot of money to have their kids just traumatized.
Yeah, it was awful. It's awful. It's awful. But you know, we're glad that these stories are getting out, that people are talking about it and bringing it to the light. And hey, the more we talk about things like this, the more we're aware of what's happening, and we don't fall prey to these kinds of things. You know, like a parent who has a troubled youth or going through something, and they're desperate. They're trying to find a way to help their teen, and like teenage years, those are like the toughest years. That's when you're kind of going through some of the, you know, growing up, the hardest parts of growing up. So you're in a very vulnerable state as a child and as a parent. And that's when I got kind of sad, was when we started talking about her mom and how she really didn't know that all of this was happening.
Feels guilty now.
So really interesting. We hope you enjoyed that interview. We hope you follow her on Instagram MP. At the Green MP and at FlowGrown_OK. So thanks so much for watching our interview series. We hope you check out our show.
Let us know if you like this.
Yeah, let us know if you enjoy this format. Because your feedback is important to the longevity of the show.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Follow us.
Bye.